In this video, I'll be finishing up the Lesson 6 packet, starting with typing pages 3 and 4 into wescheme.org and making sure that our red square and our yard area functions work. And then we'll be moving on to pages 5, 6, and 7 in this video. So let's take a look at page 3 to recap what we had to do there. On page 3, this was our red square function. We've already written the design recipe, but we still need to do the bottom of page 3 where we type it into our editor using the recipe button and make sure it works. So I'm going to go ahead and type that in. I'll be back in a second and you'll see it all typed in. Here's the design recipe for our red square function. Keep in mind that our variable name here was size, which we see down here in the definition here and here. Keep in mind the word size is not in quotation marks. It's not a string, it's actually just a variable, so no quotation marks. I'm going to hit insert. My design recipe is now in here. I'm going to type in my purpose statement now, right underneath the contract. So creates a solid red square of the given size. When I click run, we can now test the red square function over here. So in your packet, you're asked to test out red square 55 to make sure that it makes a red solid square size 55. And then you can, of course, test that function with any other number as the input. Let's take a look at the next page, which is our yard area function. The yard area function, remember, used two numbers as inputs, representing the length and the width, and it multiplied the length times width to give us the area of a yard. So at the bottom of page 4, you're directed to type it in to your definitions window using the recipe button. So I'm going to do that and I'll be back in a second. Now that I've typed in my design recipe, I'm going to click insert. I know I need to go back and type in my purpose statement starting with a semicolon. So multiplies length and width to give the area. That might be a little bit different than what we wrote down, but it works. I'm going to click run, see that there's no errors. At the bottom of page 4, you're asked to test that yard area space 10 space 15 works. So we know that if the area of, if the length and width are 10 and 15, the area is going to be 10 times 15, which we can do mentally, it should be 150. And it does it correctly. So I know I've written my design recipe, the examples and the definition correctly. So to get credit for this part of the packet, at the bottom of page 4, you'll need to demonstrate that your code works for these 3 pieces of code here. And then you get signed off and get credit for it. Let's move on to page 5 in the Lesson 6 packet, which is where we're going to actually get our danger and our target moving in the video game. So this code will actually apply to our video game. Since the danger can only move to the left, will the x coordinate or the y coordinate be affected, and in what way? So when we think about something moving to the left, that's actually moving in the x direction, specifically in the negative x direction. So what we'll write here is that the x coordinate, when we move to the left, the x coordinate will decrease. Okay? So when we take a look at our example here, we are going to be using a design recipe to write a function called updateDanger, which takes in the danger's x-coordinate and produces the next x-coordinate, which is 50 pixels to the left. So we're writing the code that's actually going to get our characters moving in our video game. So the function name, of course, is updateDanger, because we were told that. The input says it takes in the danger's x-coordinate. The location of a character is a number. And it produces the next x-coordinate 50 pixels to the left. So that's going to be another number. What we're going to do, or what we're going to ask the computer to do to turn the input into the output, is move it to the left 50, which we will be able to figure out is actually subtracting 50. So mathematically, for this function, we're subtracting 50. So what does the function do? I will write out subtracts 50 from the given number. You can write that in your own words, but that's the general gist of this function. So for example, when I use the update danger function with any number for an input, so let's say 200, the computer is supposed to subtract 200 minus 50. So I just need to make sure I write that out in code so that the computer can understand what it's supposed to do with my input, which was 200. Pause the video now. Go ahead and try the second example on your own. Here's an example of a second example. You could have chosen any number here and here. I chose 73, but your number can be anything. Positive, negative, big, small, whatever. So now we circle the parts of the code that's changeable. Everything is exactly the same in this code, in these two examples, except the number that we're using as the input. So we need to use a variable to represent what that number actually represents. So I'm actually just going to use x, standing for the x coordinate. Okay, it says the function takes in an x coordinate. So I'm just going to call it x. It's short and sweet, so that when I go to write my definition, I'm rewriting everything in the example that stayed the same. So the update danger, of course, stayed the same. Instead of using a specific number for the input, I'm just using x. What do I want the computer to do with that variable? I want it to subtract whatever I typed in for x, and I want it to subtract 50 from it. So I just need to write that out in code, and that is the code that's going to allow our danger to get moving. So remember, in the original video game that you were shown in class, the danger was the dog. It's the thing that the player is trying to avoid. So we will, I'll demonstrate the bottom of page 5 for you in a little bit. After we do page 6, then we'll go to the computer stuff. So next page, since the target can only move to the right, will the x coordinate or the y coordinate be affected, and in what way? So when we think about movement to the right, that's movement in the x direction, and specifically the x coordinate will increase. Moving to the right, the x increases. So we are going to use the design recipe to write a function called update target, which takes in the target's x coordinate and produces the next x coordinate, which is 50 pixels to the right. This design recipe is going to look very, very, very similar to the one we just did for update danger, except instead of subtracting 50 like we did in update danger, we're now going to be adding 50 in this one. So I'd like you to pause the video and try this on your own right now. I will give you a hint here for one of the examples if you need it. When we use the update target function with any number, I'm going to use the number 75 for my input. We're going to be adding our number, which is 75, plus 50. So that's the code, that's one example that could be used for this function. So go ahead and pause the video, try this page on your own. So I have filled in the contract, make sure that's correct, takes in a number, produces a number. The purpose statement is just rewording the word problem, basically. The second example should look exactly the same as the first example. You can pick any other number for your input, though. So once we circle the changeable parts of this code, we need to give it a variable. So because these are representing x coordinates, I'm going to use the letter x again. So in my definition, it should be update target x. What do we want the computer to do with it? X should be added to 50. So that's our code for update target. That's going to get the target moving in our video game. In the original game that you were shown in class, the target, remember, was the ruby. It's what the player is trying to get. So let's go back to page 5 and do parts A, B, and C on the computer in our editor, which is at wescheme.org. And then let's do the bottom of page 6, letters D, E, and F, also in our editor at wescheme.org. So this should be done in the same document that the first part of lesson 6 was in, the design recipe practice. So I'm going to click my recipe button, and I'm going to take some time on my own to type in the update danger function, and I'll be back in a second. So here's my design recipe for the update danger function. I'm going to click insert, and now I know I have to go back and type in my purpose statement underneath the contract. So I'm going to type in that the update danger function subtracts 50 from the given number. And when I click run, which you're asked to do at the bottom of page 5, now we should be able to evaluate update danger with any number as an input. So let's try 50. And the computer should know at this point, because of my definition, it should know to subtract 50 from that number. So 50 minus 50 should be 0. We should get 0 here, which we do. Let's make sure that update danger 120 works, which is the other one in your packet. The computer's going to subtract 120 minus 50, and we should get 70, which we do. So that completes page 5. Page 6, of course, is the update target function. So you're asked at the bottom of page 6 to use the recipe button to type in the update target code. So I'm going to take some time to do that on my own. I'll be back in a second. I've typed in my update target design recipe. I will click insert and make sure that I type in my purpose statement. Underneath the contract, adds 50 to the given number. When I click run, which you're asked to do at the bottom of page 6, the computer reads all of these definitions that I've typed in. I, of course, make sure I got no errors, and now I test it. So when I type in update target 50, the computer should add 50 to my number, so we get 100. How about update target 120? Add 50 to it, we get 170. So the computer now knows to subtract 50 for update danger, add 50 for update target. So that brings us to page 7 in our packet, which is where we're starting to put this code into our video game. So in your video game, this is a screenshot right here of what your code originally looks like. So you had the title color, the background, the danger, the target, the player. At this point, you have probably changed at least some of those things, but that's what the code originally looked like. If you're ready to change your danger, target, and player, you can do that now. Otherwise, let's focus on section 1 of the code, which looks like this originally. We'll notice here that the contract for update danger and the purpose statement for update danger is already there. It just tells us to write examples below this line. And then, of course, we're going to have to do our definition as well. Same thing for update target. The contract is there, the purpose statement is there. We're just writing examples and our definition. So we're actually going to be deleting out these lines of code and carefully pasting in the examples and definition for the update danger and update target functions. So in your video game file, section 0, of course, is the title color, background, danger, target, player. We're not going to deal with that right now. Let's take a look at section 1, which is where we're actually going to delete out these 2 lines of code and copy and paste the update danger code that we just typed in this other document, this other file. So all I need to copy and paste are the 2 examples and the definition. So I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go back to my game, right where my cursor was already left off. I'm going to paste it. And now I'm going to make sure it worked. And the way I make sure it works is when I click run, the danger, which at this point is a red triangle, should move across the screen. Okay? It's moving 50 pixels to the left over and over and over again. Now notice it's gone. It goes across the screen once and it's gone, which is all it's supposed to do at this point. We now need to do the same thing in our video game code for the update target code. So I'm going to delete out these 2 lines of code, go to my other document where I typed in the update target design recipe, copy just the 2 examples and the definition, and in my other document, my video game document, I'm going to paste it in the right spot, click run, make sure there's no errors, and this time the danger, which was the red triangle, will still go on the screen to the left, 50 pixels at a time. But now the target, which is the green circle, should move to the right 50 pixels at a time. And we can see it down there moving across the bottom of the screen. Now it's gone though. So part of what we're doing in the next lesson is we're making sure that the danger and the target don't disappear forever. So once you finish page 7 and your video game is ready to be checked, you'll know you're ready when you click run and see your danger and target fly across the screen. Then get signed off on page 7 and you will be done with lesson 6. That's the end of this video.